These latest headlines from ABC15 are sponsored by Lerner and Rowe Injury Attorneys. One call, that's all.
Hello, I'm Megan Thompson with your top stories right now from ABC15 Arizona. Do you know one person is dead, 2 others are recovering in Scottsdale after they were attacked by bees while working on the roof of an independent living facility. Emergency crews rushed to the scene near Scottsdale Road and Pinnacle Peak after multiple workers were stung by bees. Officials are still investigating where those bees came from and whether they're still threatening the area. President Donald Trump is rolling out new tariff rates for countries around the world, with more expected to be announced today. Scripps News Group's Joe St. George is following which countries could be announced today and how they're responding.
The tariff and trade battle is back, with President Trump announcing new tariff rates impacting more than a dozen countries starting in August. However, questions remain. Will these tariffs actually go into effect, or will the president alter his thinking again, or might the courts even get involved?
They've had their way for many, many decades, as you know, and it was time that we just wanted fairness.
Tariffs have once again catapulted to near the top of President Donald Trump's economic agenda. Products from Japan as well as South Korea are set to be hit with a 25% tariff starting in August. Both account for around 4% or so of all products imported into the U.S. Other countries will be hit even harder, with the president announcing products from Thailand will face a 36% tariff rate. President Trump is making the individual country announcements on social media, with even more expected in the coming days.
The administration, the president, and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker. That's what they're focused on.
The announcements this week involving tariffs have prompted the markets to slip, just as they did in the spring when new tariff hikes were initially introduced. However, the White House seems unfazed. The markets recovered from their losses in the spring. Meanwhile, officials are enjoying the new revenue the tariffs are generating. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, in June alone, tariff revenues were $28 billion, a new record, and more than 4 times the amount collected in the same month last year. Some of the biggest looming questions include: what tariff rate will European countries receive from President Trump? And will any countries attempt to impose tariffs on their own on American-made products? The courts could also play a role. The Supreme Court has already been asked to hear arguments on an emergency basis regarding whether or not President Trump has the authority to impose these tariffs. Now, because it's early July and these tariffs don't go into effect until early August, that still gives countries an opportunity to negotiate a lower rate. And President Trump has said he is open to that. As far as the impact on you, the tariffs on Japan and Korea are noteworthy. They are longstanding allies of the United States, and Americans import a lot of electronics from those countries each and every year. Joe St. George, Scripps News Group, Washington.
In our Operation Safe Roads report now, Scottsdale is getting a multi-million-dollar makeover for one of its busiest roads. A $17.4 million grant will help pay for major improvements to Thomas Road. The project covers a 2-mile stretch between 56th and 74th Streets. Workers will rebuild the roadway, replace outdated traffic signals, and add a new turn lane at 68th Street. The project will also improve drainage and add wheelchair-accessible ramps. Design work begins in early 2026, with construction starting about 2 years later.
It is an ABC 15 Weather Action Day as we are tracking extreme heat here in the valley and across much of Arizona. Meteorologist Jorge Torres, and here is your planner for your Tuesday. Temperatures starting off this morning in the mid-90s already at 8 o'clock, 107 at midday, and calling for a high of 113 degrees, well below the record of 118. That was set back again just last year during that brutal summer of 2024. Northern Arizona highs staying in the mid-80s in Flagstaff here near 90 as you head toward areas like Heber. In fact, we're forecasting a high of 90 there. 98 in Payson, 96 in Prescott, 102 in Sedona, then 110 plus from the valley and to western part of the state. And extreme heat continues through at least Thursday for much of the state, including the valley. You see extreme heat warnings up at the Grand Canyon, Mojave County, and much of central and southern Arizona too. Here's that 7-day forecast. We're at 110 plus, even beyond the weather action days that end this Thursday. Flagstaff, we're going to be up to 90 degrees tomorrow with some isolated to spotty storm chances throughout at least next week, with highs in the 80s and lows in the 50s.
For the latest headlines, weather, and traffic, head to abc15.com, or you can download our free ABC 15 mobile app.
These latest headlines from ABC15 are sponsored by Lerner and Rowe Injury Attorneys. One call, that's all.